Anyway, it says here in verse 5, and Rebekah was listening while Isaac spoke to his son. So when he went to the field to hunt for game to bring home, Rebekah said to her son Jacob, I heard your father speak to your brother Esau, saying, bring me some game and prepare a savory dish for me that I may eat, bless you in the presence of the Lord. Now therefore, my son, listen to me and as I command you. Go now to the flock and bring me from there 2 choice kids, and I'll prepare them a savory dish for your father such as he loves. And then you will bring it to your father that he may eat, so that he may bless you before his death. There is a mother who is advising her son to deceive his father. Rebekah was not the same old Rebekah, the same young Rebekah that she was at the well in Mesopotamia. She has also changed. She has also lost that spiritual outlook she had at the beginning. Now she has become shrewd and clever to help Jacob. What should she have done? What should a wife do in such a situation? She should go to her husband and talk to him and say, remember what God told us, that the older shall serve the younger. That's what Rebekah should have done. There she would have been a helpmeet to Isaac, instead of all this scheming and manipulating behind your husband's back. Why not go straight up to him and talk to him face to face in a loving, humble way? And there she becomes an agent in the hands of Satan. Of course, it was God's will to give the birthright to Jacob, but what Rebekah could have done is say, Lord, it's wonderful that we are in a tight spot now. It looks as if the blessing is going to go to Esau, but you'll have to do some wonderful miracle now. That would have been faith, but she doesn't have that. You read about Sarah as an example in 1 Peter 3, but you don't read about Rebekah as an example. Sarah called her husband Lord, but not Rebekah. Sad that she is not given as an example. You read about Sarah in Hebrews 11, by faith Sarah, but you never read about Rebekah. Think of a sister who can start out well as a humble, simple, God-fearing sister, but gradually begins to think, oh, I'm married to an important man, Isaac, to whom all the promises have descended from my father-in-law Abraham. It's amazing how women can begin to think, I'm married to one of the important brothers in the church, I'm not just an ordinary sister. Garbage. When such thoughts think that people can store such garbage in their minds, that I am married to somebody important, and to be pretty proud of one's husband's position or ministry. I am the wife of Isaac, not just any ordinary person. And to store such garbage in the mind is what makes Rebekah finally into a person who cannot be held out as an example for anybody. But Sarah, she also was married to a very important person. She was married to the first person whom God chose, but she remained humble right till the very end. There are 2 contrasting examples of women, Sarah and Rebekah, and the New Testament exhorts us to follow Sarah, who submitted to her husband. I'm sure there were a lot of things Abraham did that Sarah couldn't understand. She submitted. No doubt she advised Abraham now and then. But Rebekah schemed behind her husband's back. None of them were perfect. Sarah was not perfect. But she didn't scheme and manipulate things behind her husband's back. A warning for wives. And Jacob also, he could have stood up against his mother. He was not a little kid. He was also 40 years old, more than 40. He was already married at 40. Here's a 50-year-old man still clinging on to his mother's apron strings. Mommy says, go and bring this, and the 50-year-old man obeys mommy when he knows it's completely contrary to God's will. I've seen people like that. Grown-up people still clinging on to daddy's coattails and mommy's apron strings. Don't know how to stand for God. Meekly does it, what his mother says. He's only concerned about whether he'd get caught. Supposing my father feels my hand and discovers that I'm smooth, He'll curse me when I'm discovered to be a deceiver. That's all he's thinking about. He's a schemer. He's got his hand on his brother's leg from birth, and he's still got his hand on his brother's leg. So he went. Mother said, don't worry about that. Your curse be on me, verse 13. Just obey my voice. There are times when a son needs to stand up against his parents and say, I'm sorry, I can't do that. That's wrong. That's unrighteous. I can't put my signature to that statement. It's a lie. It's false. I can't do it. But my son, we'll get into difficulty. Never mind, we'll trust God. He'll help us out of the difficulty. That's the thing that makes a man of God. And that's why there are so few men of God. How many people, when it comes to their own parents, they never want to displease them. They just do what will please them. Yeah, there's a warning for us. So he went and got them, verse 14, and brought them to his mother, and his mother made savory food such as his father loved. And Rebekah took the best garments of Esau, her elder son, which were with her in the house, and put them on Jacob, her younger son. Both of them are to blame. You know, there was a time when Rebekah prayed. We saw that in our last study. Notice that again, Genesis 25:22. There was a time when Isaac prayed. Isaac prayed for 20 years. But after he got his son, he stopped praying so much. And that's why his eyes became dim. It says in verse 21 of Genesis 25, Isaac prayed, and we saw that in our last study. He got a son after 20 years. And the children struggled together within Rebekah's womb, verse 22, and she also prayed. She went to the Lord and prayed. They began their life in prayer, in their early married life. Sought God, because they were in trial, they were in difficulty, they had no children, they sought God. But now, it was all ease and comfortable and pleasant, and even a heathen king comes and tells me that God is with me. Isaac could have pulled up his collars and said, I'm pretty important now. This big king has also testified that God is with me. Like the way some Christians get excited when the chief minister will come and attend their meeting or sit on the platform. Amazing how stupid Christians can get. And the eyes became dim. This has happened to Christendom. The eyes have become dim because worldly people have said good things. Worldly people have said good things, and the spiritual eyes have become dim. And Rebekah, no longer seeking God, like she did at the time when the children were struggling in her womb, saying, Lord, why is this? Why is my husband going to bless Esau now? She could have done that. No. She schemed. And we can see an example there for us. Men and women, that when you're in difficulty, they begin to scheme. How shall we get out of this now? This tight spot, this difficult situation? How can we scheme? Never mind if we do some few wrong things here and there and cheat a little here and there. If we can get out of this difficulty. We say, we want to do something right. You see, it's very easy when we have got a good end in view to say, yeah, it doesn't matter if we do a few wrong things because our ultimate goal is good. That if my ultimate goal is to get God's blessing on Jacob, never mind how I do it. That's the principle of the world, that the end justifies the means. That means provided I have a good end in view, it doesn't matter how I reach there. But Jesus has taught us, your yes must be yes, your no must be no. And the way you get to the goal is as important as the goal itself. Sure. So we can learn a lesson from that. And then he came to his father. He said, my father, and he said, here I am. Who are you, my son? And Jacob said to his father, I am Esau, your firstborn. And there was no trembling in his voice. He's an experienced deceiver. To say, I'm Esau, your son. I've done as you told me. Get up, please, and eat of my game that you may bless me. And Isaac said to his son, how is it that you have got it so quickly? And he said, because the Lord your God caused it to happen to me. And we saw that, how he brings the name of the Lord into all this. There's spiritual language about this deception. God helped me. God helped me. How did you have your needs met, brother? God help me, brother. God help me. More spiritual than saying, brother so-and-so came and gave me some money. That's very down to earth. Paul said that to the Corinthians. When I was in need, the brothers in Macedonia came and gave me some money and my needs were met. But today's servants of God say, God help me. What they mean is, I wrote a prayer letter to somebody in America and I got some money. Deception. Counterfeit garbage which millions of Christians are swallowing. That. The Lord your God help me. Amazing. And then Isaac said to Jacob, please come close so that I can feel you, my son, whether you're really my son Esau or not. And Jacob came close to his father. And he felt him and said, the voice is the voice of Jacob, but the hands are the hands of Esau. And he did not recognize him because his hands were hairy, like his brother Esau's hands. So he blessed him. He said, are you really my son Esau? And he said, I am. So he said, bring it to me, and I will eat of my son's game, that I may bless you. And he brought it to him, and he ate, and he brought him wine, and he drank. And his father Isaac said to him, please come close and kiss me, my son. So he came close and kissed him, and when he smelled the smell of his garments, he blessed him and said, see, the smell of my son is like the smell of a field which the Lord has blessed. How sad. Think of ending our life like this. A man who started out as a man of God, to end his life loving food and wine, and going by the sense of the smell of clothes rather than by any spiritual discernment. Sad, sad. And yet Isaac is typical of so many people who have started out so well, who have come into a church where they have received so much from God. So much. And started out so well. But as time has gone on, their spiritual vision has become dim. They are defeated by sins that they had overcome 10 years ago. Back into the same old rut. They had revelation on the Word 10 years ago, but it's gone now. Their eyes have become dim. They can't see. Sad, sad, sad. In contrast, see men like Abraham and Moses, who lived before God's face, did not love food and drink and be partial to their children and ruin their lives. Take these examples and warnings, brothers and sisters, so that we can walk on the right path. It's really sad to see this pathetic condition of this man who was called with such a tremendous privileges. He could have risen to such heights spiritually, and he ends like this. And it's almost the last that you hear of Isaac after this chapter. You don't hear of him again till he's dead. Nothing more to be said about him. Sad.